Bing, 'tis the season to be jolly and joyous.
Hello! Welcome to our channel. If you're new here, my name is Morgan.
My name is Felix.
My pronouns are she, her.
Mine are they, he.
And we are here to give you some advice on how to start your own clothing swap. We run a couple of different clothing swaps right now. Mostly Felix, to be clear. He's the clothing swap breadwinner, if you will.
Yeah, I would say not even just specifically clothing swaps, just kind of like anything swaps.
That's
what
true.
We're going to broadly be talking about, but mostly people ask us about clothing swaps.
We have a monthly clothing swap in Portland at Sunny's house. This is the schedule for 2026.
It's plus size specific.
Plus size specific. If you'd like to come buy anything extra large and above, we'll take it. We're going to be talking about that. Then also, a couple of times a year, Felix helps run a kids clothing swap, sizes preemie to 60. A lot of the smaller sizes show up. We need a lot more of the bigger ones usually. Also with Circular Salem, if you're local to Salem, Oregon, you've done a couple of different swaps.
We do all kinds of weird stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, just like different fun things. But people are always like, how do I get one of these started? So I wanted to answer some questions and talk about that. The way that the plus size clothing swap started was our friend who owns a space up in Portland was like, hello, this seems like something you guys would be into. Do you want to host a monthly plus size clothing swap? And we were like, yeah, that sounds amazing. So people always ask us like, how do I find a location? Location is possibly the hardest part.
Yeah, and also most important, I would say. I think it's most important because if, like, especially I guess with things like plus size or kids, anything that's like gonna be like specific to a group of people that's like not often catered to, you want to have a space that is welcoming to that group. With a kids clothing swap, don't swap your kids. With a kids clothing swap, you couldn't have it at like a bar.
Yeah,
or really even a restaurant.
You can't put it in a Spencer's Gifts.
Right. Like, or you couldn't put it somewhere where there's like breakable shelves of glass or,
Sure.
you know what I mean? So we've had ours at the library a couple times, which is great. They have a room that's like just tables. Yeah.
The plus size clothing swap is at a store that does not sell clothes.
Mm-hmm.
That I feel
that
is
also
crucial.
True.
People really lean into like, oh, I'll ask this clothing store if they want to do it. I am hesitant to have a swap of the item that is at the location if they're selling that thing. So like book swap at the library, great idea. Book swap at the Barnes and Noble, not as good of an idea because I feel like it makes, not that I think that people are trying to steal things. Like I really believe that
not purposefully.
Humans are truly like good at their core. But yeah, I think that it's something that just sort of happens accidentally and then also subconsciously people are then devaluing those items that are at that place. So while like I don't really care if you think that this book is worth $15, the person who's selling the book probably cares a little bit, right? And we're all about like barter economy, free stuff, whatever. But Sunny's house, which is a tattoo shop / art
like
gift. They've got books. They've got
lots of items.
Lots of items. None of them are clothing. They don't have the garment racks.
Or shoes or purses.
No,
really.
Not accessories. Yeah, the garment racks we use exclusively for the clothing swap. They are not out at any other time. It's a space that has a couple of accessible restrooms, which is really great, which is also important for like a plus size clothing swap to make sure that like there is space for people. We have a couple of folks who are wheelchair users and also who have like mobility aids like other folks, and we're able to make a lot of space in that area, even though it's not like a super huge, it's not like a large location. But anyway, we make it work for the amount of people who are there. I think our philosophy when it comes to swaps is that the items that are provided by people, because you are always going to have so much overage, the idea is that it not then be sold for profit. So if that is something you're planning on doing, if you're doing like a clothing swap at a thrift store and then the clothes will become sold at that thrift store after the fact, I think that's something you should be really, really upfront about. And it's not something that we would do, but that I don't think it's evil. It's just not.
It's also, it just depends on the space. Like if you have a friend who runs like this tiny little thrift store, who's like, you know, everything with this sticker on it is free today to swap in and out, but then after that, like, I'm gonna sell it. I don't know, like, yeah, but I would, if I were doing something like that, be very upfront that like someone could potentially profit from it.
For someone personally who is running the swap could profit from it is important information. Otherwise, I think a lot of folks, they get their donations and then they take them to like the Goodwill or whatever after the fact. I would try to be as thoughtful as possible in where you're donating those items. There are a lot of places that do not profit off of the donations that they get. So like if it's a kids clothing swap, see if there are any schools in your area who want to take those clothes to give to kids. There's like Helping Hands in our area. That's like a free store. If there's like a shelter, sometimes domestic violence shelters stores or like unhoused shelters will take clothing donations and things like that, or any kind of donation.
Yeah, if you don't have anything like that in your area, I do think like I can understand the appeal of taking it to somewhere like Goodwill. I would say the smaller thrift stores could probably benefit from it more, or even like you could post on Facebook Marketplace if you have a place to hold stuff for a few days, just to be like, free stuff, come get it.
Yes.
Because I literally today on Facebook, someone's getting rid of a bunch of blow up beach balls that have a bunch of different characters on them, and I was like, we could take those. We can wipe them down.
Let the babies play with them.
When the babies come over, when we have many babies here,
they're gonna love that.
They're gonna love that.
And then we'll give it to somebody else.
You can. What's nice about a blow up ball is you can fold it down when you're not using it.
That's true. Location is kind of like the main thing. If you are searching for a location, I would say if you have a friend who owns a space, anything that is not directly sold at that space would be potentially a good thing that you could swap. If you don't know anybody who has a location, you could always ask your local library. That's where we do the kids clothing swap. It works really, really well. They like partner with us technically, so it's like run through the library, which is really great. So they do a little bit of marketing on their end. You could also ask if you have a senior center. A lot of times those folks are like very excited to do a swap because most senior centers are like, they want multi-generational, like people of all ages in there and doing stuff. And they have typically a larger base of potential volunteers, which is really good.
You did a pantry swap at the park.
I did, yes.
It was cold.
It's technically illegal.
Never mind.
No. Definitely still do it. If we were being really professional about it, we would have like booked that space and like paid the city. But also I think we knew nobody was going to be, it was fine. It was fine for us to do it.
It was honestly mostly like a donation drop off, that swap. Not that many people took stuff home anyway.
Yeah.
So it seemed like a food drive.
Yes, I think that's kind of the other thing is that when you are trying to plan what kind of a swap you want to do, you want to think about the resources that you have, the resources that people need, and then kind of like the location you're in and what people are looking for. So I think it was really smart of our friend Lemon to be like, hey, do you guys want to do a plus size clothing swap? Because they knew that we have the like sort of marketing reach to find our fellow fat people who are gay in Oregon. And then additionally, it was at a time where we were receiving a lot more plus size clothes than we like had anything to do with. We were doing more like brand deals.
Yeah, at the time we were doing a lot of like hashtag gifted stuff. Yes. And so brands were, not that we're complaining, but they were sending us a lot of clothes and we just didn't need that many. And so we wanted them to go to people who were going to use them, but also for free without having to pay for shipping.
Yes.
So yeah, it just all kind of worked out. Right now we haven't done like a lot of clothes things, but it's really cool because when we do get occasional thing that we like aren't necessarily going to throw under our wardrobe, they get to go to people who are cool.
You can only have so many clothes. And then the other thing about the plus size clothing swap is that like anytime you're doing a swap, I think it's important to keep in mind if this is functionally a needs-based swap or if it's going to be more like a fun swap. And there's nothing wrong with either, and it's also great for there to be both groups of people who are in attendance because like, you know, for the plus size clothing swap, sometimes people just like frantically need like new work clothes and they happen to be able to come to the clothing swap and they don't have anything to donate and they don't like have any money to buy new work clothes, but like they can find something at the clothing swap. And then the fun people are there to be like, oh, like I didn't wear any of these things and I bought them online and I did whatever and like here's all these things, and like maybe they won't take nearly as much. Maybe they're gonna take like one thing and they brought a whole bunch of things. Both groups of people are important.
Yes.
And we have hit this really sweet spot in our clothing swap because it is monthly, so we have like a similar group of people who are coming and then they are telling their friends on a fairly regular basis. So I don't think we've had a swap with less than like 25 people in attendance.
No, I would honestly say we probably, in the full like 3 hours that it is, we probably haven't had one that had less than 50 people in attendance.
If I had to guess.
Not all at once.
No, and they kind of come in waves. I feel like people come more towards the beginning than they do towards the end, and that probably just depends on your area and what time of day you have it as well and like where it's at.
The other thing that I would definitely say that I wish I had known before we started doing the swap is like not to beat yourself up too much at the beginning, because like the first couple are gonna be chaotic. Like you don't know who's gonna show up, you don't know how much reach like your posts wherever you've been posting had. We didn't have clothing racks the first couple. We spent like our money on the clothing racks to buy them to make the swap easier. Which honestly we got them like at like I don't know, Walmart or Target or
it was a
something
Target.
like that.
Yeah.
For like $10 each.
3
You
years
can
ago.
probably get some on Facebook Marketplace. And then with, like, for the first couple of ones after we got the racks, we just asked people to donate hangers as well.
Yeah.
And they did.
Yeah.
So that's the other thing is, like, you know, supplies that you need to run this. Once you start it and you start getting kind of a customer base, essentially, you can also, like, ask those people, like, hey, do you guys have extra garment racks? Do you have extra hangers you don't want?
Yeah.
Do you have, like, a weird little shelf we could put shoes on?
Community call for XYZ.
Whatever. Or even, like, money. That's, like, a little bit tricky, obviously, because, like, you don't want it to seem like you're profiting from something you're trying to do to help the community. But,
if
like,
you have very clear, like, if
we want to raise $100 to buy garment racks,
or to get a fan, or if you know somebody who has a fan or garment racks and can send their information our way, then never mind, we'll just give all this money back to the people, or we'll spend it on other cool clothes from small businesses, etc. It's not something we've done yet. It's something that we've looked into in the past.
Something we thought about doing in the beginning.
Yeah.
But we just ended up getting the clothing racks because they were on sale. Or
they were super cheap. Yeah,
they're not great.
No,
but they work.
They're bad, but they haven't fallen apart, which
Yeah.
is great. The other thing is that depending on what kind of item you're swapping, that is going to drastically change what your setup looks like and what makes sense for you. So if you are planning on having not a recurring swap, but like a one-off swap, I would consider what size are the items that you have, what kind of people are going to be looking through the items, what space you have, and what kind of signage and like ways to organize you have. So at the plus size clothing swap, literally we do it completely opposite from the kids clothing swap. Because the plus size clothing swap, we have no sizes on anything, because when it comes to plus sizes, everything is super weird all over, like depending on brand, like it can be like huge crazy difference, whereas a kid's like 3 to 6 months across the board is generally going to be a lot more similar than a brand's size 18 to another brand's size 18, depending. So we sort of organize it by like what kind of item it is. So it'll be like short sleeves, long sleeves, pants, and then like dresses,
rompers,
overalls, sort of like one piece type things, as well as sometimes swimsuits or like bras and underwear, etc. So we have people come in at the plus size clothing swap. We have people come in, they give us their bag, they dump it, we hang up all the things and put them out there, and they're typically, like we say, don't bring more than 3 items. I think if you are starting a swap for the first time, it's gonna behoove you to say a smaller amount than you think that people should bring, unless you have a metric butt ton of volunteers. If you have a shit ton of volunteers, then tell people to go crazy, like have them bring whatever they want. But if you only have a few people, you don't want to get like completely overwhelmed by all the stuff coming in. Also, some people do this thing where they're like, the first 2 hours we're just accepting donations, and then after that we're open to swap, and people can also bring donations like as it's ongoing. That seems to work really well for folks. We haven't really done any like that, except
we haven't done that with the plus size clothing swap.
No,
that's what we're doing with the holiday
kids
swap.
That's what we're doing with the holiday swap. That's going to happen at the library. And then the kids clothing swap, the first like hour we're just accepting donations and taking things out, and then again people can bring them. Anyway, we take the stuff, we put them on hangers, hang it up. At the kids clothing swap, no hangers. Hangers would be so goofy for
also their items are so small.
The items are so small, so you can lay them out on tables, and then they're all organized by size. If they were organized by like kind of item, that would be completely insane. That wouldn't work well for a kid swap at all. And for that one, we ask folks if they're bringing more than like a large grocery bag's worth to sort of roughly organize by size, so it's a little bit easier for our volunteers. With that one also, we have this set up where there's like spots for the clothes to go. So it's like the person receiving the items puts the clothes on like in the slot of size.
They have a library cart.
And then the person who's like running them to where they're actually going to go on the tables just looks at that size and grabs it, because we end up with some volunteers who do not do kids clothes. Like they don't have children. They're like very young library interns who help out, which are really sweet, but like I don't want them looking through trying to figure out what the difference is between like an 18-month or 12 to 18 months.
Yes.
You know, it's like that's so much, like we're not doing that.
It's hard to explain.
Yes. it's just there's like weird rules that come with it. Yeah. Yes, and then at that one we always try to make sure that we have like paper bags and other things for people to take. Whereas at the plus size clothing swap, typically people are just bringing like their own little tote bag.
Yeah, and
that
then
we just give right back to
them.
Yeah. Typically at the kids clothing swap, they are not bringing bringing like a reusable bag, they're bringing like a trash bag, whatever, if they are donating clothes. And at the kids clothing swap, it's more likely that there are folks who are coming to just take things as opposed to folks who are like swapping back and forth.
Yeah, and at the plus size clothing swap, we get like quite a lot of folks who bring stuff just to drop it off. They'll look around to see if there's anything they want and then leave.
Yeah.
So we end up with a lot of overage at both, but for different reasons.
Yes. Yeah. And I think when looking into the kind of swap you want to have and like whether it's going to be on a recurring basis, whether that's like monthly or like quarterly or whatever, you should think about the kind of resources that you have in terms of space as well. If you have like a fairly nice shed or like, you know, space in your home, or
I was literally just about to say if you have a basement,
anything like that where you can like sort of store things for a period of time, I would say don't stress too much about who you're going to donate it to after the fact. You can figure that out later, as long as you're not going to literally like sell it. Like make sure people know if you're going to sell it beforehand, but otherwise it's not a huge deal because you will be able to find orgs who want to take it. For the plus size clothing swap, there's a couple of different, it was previously like a queer youth resource center was taking clothes, and now recently it's been Rahab Sisters, who are, they work with unsheltered folks, and they'd put out a call for plus size clothes, and somebody was like, hey, have you talked to the Sunny's House people? Because every month they're getting plus size clothes. Another thing that is kind of important to our like vibe of clothing swap is that we never turn anybody away. Obviously it's completely free. And then if someone brings an item that we don't want to put out, they don't know that.
We're not going to shame them.
No, God, no, absolutely not. No. Sometimes people will bring things that are like not the correct size. So they'll bring something that's like a medium, even though this is a plus size clothing swap, or they'll bring something that's like really like sort of like used, it's not in good condition. And even if things are in like not great condition, I'll typically still put it out. It's just if it's something that's like either like really, really, really grimy, or has like a specific, like has like a lot of smell to it, or like something like that, then I won't put it out. But the thing is that like when it comes to these clothing swaps, like people are bringing what they are able to bring. And for some people, that's going to be a lot of resources. And for other people, they're going to like scrounge to find like the one thing that they could. And also, please express to people they don't need to bring anything, because you're going to end up with a lot of overage. But just, it's important to never make people feel bad for whatever they're bringing. Just sort of like discreetly have a spot that you're putting that.
Yeah, at Sunny's house specifically, like we have a 6-foot table that usually has a, what is it called? Like a tablecloth on it.
Yeah.
So that we can store like extra hangers and other things like just under that table, but it still looks nice.
Yeah.
And so we just also have a box where we put stuff that's like too small, or
if someone were to bring a graphic tee that didn't align with the Sunny's house values.
Yes.
Then that is something. If for some reason, no one would bring a shirt that's like, I hate trans people.
Right.
But like, we're not putting that shirt out because that's going to hurt somebody's feelings.
Exactly.
Like, there's no reason for that to be there. We would not do that.
Someone like, you know, we've also had people bring things that aren't necessarily part of the swap. It's just up to your discretion. So like we've had people bring books, even though they do technically sell books at Sunny's house. It just depends. If it's something that Sunny's house might sell, I probably wouldn't put it out because I don't want it to be confusing.
Yeah.
But we have had people bring like
stickers, I would say, is the most.
Yeah, we've had people bring like here's a scrapbook that I thought I was going to do a craft with, but I didn't.
Yeah,
we have a lot of people actually bring random cosplay things where they're like, I use this for one cosplay, I'm not going to use it again. Those things actually always get
super quick.
You could also, if you live in the kind of place like maybe Seattle or somewhere where like a lot of cons come through, you could specifically do like a cosplayers swap.
I'm sure you could.
For sure. Like that's a great idea.
We have done a holiday swap one time that was like
costumes.
It was like Halloween costumes and like Halloween and Christmas decor. The one thing I will say about Halloween costumes is that when it comes to costumes, they are significantly more difficult to clean than like regular clothing. So that one is a little bit tougher because you end up with some things that are like grimier than your usual stuff that you would get at a swap. Another thing I was going to say is that like if we get kids clothes at the kids clothing swap that are like really heinously stained, like completely insane, super nasty. Obviously smoky. It's been no, not smoky. That's not what I'm saying. Like some kid ate mac and cheese and clearly it's been washed, but it's just like really stained. I'll still put that out because like maybe somebody just needs a sleeper that has a good zipper. Like that is still something that folks might be interested in. And also at the kids clothing swap, I think because of the wording that we use, we typically say that it's like mutual aid focused and that like no donations are like, those are like at the very top of our like, be aware, like this is really chill. I've never had somebody come up to me and be like, I hope this is okay. Like that's not ever the vibe. At the plus size clothing swap, I think because of some of the verbiage that we used originally, we do get that a little bit. There's a little bit of people being like they're sort of expecting us to like check and make sure that what they've brought is cool enough for them to then participate. And that's really not the vibe.
No.
And they'll like hand it as, it's kind of like they hand it to me as if they're expecting me to like count
grade
cash.
it. Yeah.
And every single time I'm like, thank you so much, that's great. And they're like, okay, but is it? And I'm like, yeah.
Yeah, it is because, and I feel bad because I don't want other people to feel bad, but like the difference also is like with kids' clothes, for the most part, you are kind of going for like both quantity and quality.
Yeah.
Because like kids change clothes like 5 times a day because they're always spilling stuff, they're always getting stuff on.
Yeah.
When you're an adult, especially like plus size, like we just didn't want folks bringing like old pilly PJs and like that's all anyone is bringing, because then it's like nobody's gonna want to take anything.
The dream with a plus size clothing swap specifically is that people are bringing something that somebody else would be stoked to bring home. That being said, all of these donations, like they're going to a really cool organization that will take just about anything. So like there are only so many size 18 jeans boot cut that like people need in the world.
Yeah.
And yet we're happy to take all of them because they go to an organization. So
we used some verbiage at the beginning that was basically like, I don't remember how you phrased it. It was nicer than this, but it was like, if you've had a bag just sitting in your trunk for a while, maybe wash it again before you give it to us. And also like, make sure it's not like, t-shirts from your high school. Cause like, I don't know if anybody's going to want that.
At one point it was something that was like, I want to say it was like swap items that like you would be excited to receive, or like maybe like it's not something,
not your style,
it's no longer your style, but it's still in like great condition and like something that somebody else would be really excited to get. It's been going really well. The plus size clothing swap is like its own vibe. Like it's just
Lemon
like,
and them had other people run it while we were on like maternity leave
for
basically
like a long time. Like months and months.
So
and
it kept going.
Speaking of.
No, he's up.
He's up.
He's got a hop.
Yeah.
I think this was a really daunting thing to start, so it was really great that like Lemon is the one who kickstarted it because they already had the space and everything. I will say now that you've started a couple of different swaps with different organizations, it's honestly not as scary as it sounds.
No,
people want to help other people.
They really do. I would say that kind of the most relevant thing to not us starting a swap is like for people to know that it's happening, right? So like for us, it's a little bit easier because we have a social media like following, and so it's pretty simple. If you're starting a swap, email it to me, boefem@gmail.com. I'll put it on my free swaps in the United States list. That is a website anybody can check out at any time to see if there's something going on in your area. Love to hear about them. I want us to make free swaps cool the same way that thrifting became cool.
Yes.
That's my like goal for 2026, is that I want people to be like, this is something to be stoked about. But when it comes to getting the word out, your like local Reddit page, I would say if you have one, is a really good place to put that information if they accept like event, whatever. Most Reddit pages, even if they aren't cool with people posting like events, if it's a free one, you can ask them and be like, hey, is this okay? And they're typically like, yeah, that's fine. Facebook Buy Nothing groups are a really good place to put information about those. You can make a Facebook event and you can invite all the people in your town. You can post about it on Instagram. If you are able to collaborate with a library or with a store that already has some kind of like a following, then you can sort of leverage that, and that's a good call. If there's any local podcasts in your area, and be like, hey, do you guys mind doing a spot for our whatever? It's a free thing, so we don't have money to pay you. Is that something you'd be interested in? I have found that particularly when it comes to like this form of mutual aid that is resource sharing, people are very willing to help out and get the word out, and they're just like excited that something like this exists in their area. Speaking of which, if you're like, oh, I'd love to start a swap in the place where I'm at, look around and see if somebody else is already doing that, because it is very, very possible, depending on where you're at, that there's already a really cool swap ongoing, and you can either work with those folks to do the kind of swap that you want to do, or, go to that swap and help out and do whatever. All the swaps that we've done, obviously the plus size and the kids clothing swap, we've done, I've done 2 pantry swaps, one through Circular Salem and one at Sunny's house up in Portland. Both of those had a lot more folks donating than like taking things. I think that because there was this concern that SNAP was not going to get funded in early November, there was this push of like, oh God, we have to like make this available for other people. And so anyone who had any resource of food that they were able to share was really excited to be like, here's the only way that I know how to help people right now, which was really cool. But and then all of those like leftovers, because it just essentially became a food drive because people didn't take stuff. They were redistributed to little free pantries and Salem Soup Squad, who works with our unhoused community in Salem, which is great. Like that's a really cool thing as well. Our other like most successful swap was the craft swap. That one was really cool because we did a sewing machine mending class and then also hand mending. And that was really fun for it to be sort of like a swap and learn type thing. I will say that the swapping part of it, people brought so many craft supplies and then they really did not take hardly any of them. Similar, I guess, kind of to and it's, you know, for crafting, I think people get really excited about the idea of a project, and so they like get all this stuff and then it sits in there whatever for many years, and then they're like, I'll just give it, and so you kind of like accumulate things in that way. But that one we did at Radness and Sue's, which is a really cool community center focused on like being all ages and sober and creativity, and they have all of these free resources all the time for folks to like make crafts and do things, and they have a sewing club and like all kinds of cool stuff. So we were really thrilled that sort of all of the stuff left over from the craft swap just went straight to them. Like that was a really easy, and now these live here, which is great. Other swaps I've seen people do are like seed and plant swaps. I haven't participated in one of those before, but for the gardening community, those seem really fun. I've also seen folks do like puzzle and book swaps. I think that those sound really cute. They are not something that I necessarily would be interested in like attending or hosting, so I don't have like as much information about them. But that, I think that's another one where the overage and the things that you end up with, like that'd be some group would be really stoked to have a butt ton of puzzles. I know specifically my friend Holly, who I do Circular Salem with and who is one of the main Soup Squad organizers, she also works with her neighborhood association. She's like one of the busiest people I've ever known in my life, but they do like a Gifts for Seniors event, and so puzzles are like very high priority for those folks, which is really cool. Yeah, upcoming, we on the 11th, this Thursday, so probably tomorrow for when this video is coming out for y'all, at the Salem Public Library, we're doing a really free market, which is an everything swap, but the focus of this really free market is items that are re-giftable. We're also gonna have like a gift wrapping station. This is the first time where I have created like a sign up, which is a really cool website. If you've not used it before, it's great. It's literally, I think it's just signup.com, but you can make a free account and then people can sign up to have a slot in whatever you want to have them do. But for this, I have volunteers who are going to be helping with setup and then accepting donations and sort of like organizing things, and then folks who are going to be gift wrapping and helping with like takedown. Really excited for that event. I don't know what it's gonna look like. You guys will see. It'll be included in our Vlogmas whatever, so that'll be fun. But this is the first time that I will have like actual like volunteers who I am the one who's like gathering them. If you're someone who is doing a swap for the first time, that might make you feel better. I know it would make me feel better to like know that you have a select group of people if you're not doing it already at a place that has like a volunteer base. Oh, another thing that folks do are like toy swaps, particularly for kids. So like parent-teacher association group, kids toy swap, and they just like specify the age range. And then you kind of have that already built in because it's like at your kid's school. Kids clothing swap through a school also I think would be a really good idea. Other than like the actual resources part of it, like we almost never have to go clothes shopping, almost never have to buy things for our baby because there are swaps that we are working on, so we're able I typically wait until like after the swap has like closed for me to like go and snatch the things that I want to snatch. But that is a really great perk. And then also I think that like the sort of community building aspect is huge, and it's something that I didn't anticipate being as important to me as it has been. It's really nice to see folks on a regular basis and be able to provide something that your community is excited about. And yeah, just to be able to like chat and like actually have like face-to-face interactions with people in your immediate community. It's really nice. Folks of all kinds, right? Because I think that I know that I do some like community organizing with like groups where I know that everyone has the exact same like political ideology and like echo chamber of things as me, and I, you know, really value those spaces and having conversations with those folks. But I think it is also important and nice to see that like there are a lot of people who probably don't feel the same way as me about a lot of things, but like we can all be in this space together and be excited about something and share something together, and humanity's nice. That's lovely. I love that. So yeah, if you have a swap, if you know of a swap, if you have a swap, hey baby. If you have a swap, if you know of a swap, email me. I would love to hear about it. I'll put it on my website. And thank you for being here. What is this day of, on the 10th? On the 10th day of, you're not gonna sing with me? On the 10th
day of Vlogmas.
Why are you singing crazy?
That's how you singing it. Yeah, it should be. On the 10th day of Vlogmas, a goose gave to me.
Oh, the goofs. Okay, start over.
Okay, start over. On the 10th day of Vlogmas, the goofs gave to me advice about how to fight capitalism.
Yay!
Can you say bye bye?
Bye bye.
Bye bye. Can you say mommy?
Mommy.
Mommy.
It's possible.
It is possible. Nice.
And see, cut all that. Editor, cut everything we did.
Cut everything.
Cut.
Can you tell if it's just only ring light on my glasses?
No.
You can tell it's not that.
Yeah, I mean, right where you're at right now it is.
Right, so we could just turn this.
That looks way worse.
Oh, okay, well.
That looks worse also.
It feels like it looks back the way that was.
Well, now I don't know. That's the way naturally God had it, and I'm unsure how that was. You tried not having reflective glasses? I don't know if it gets shorter than that.
I mean, you could make it taller instead.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I have to stay at the same place.
No, because you're the glasses.
Right.
Whoop-de-doo.
Is that better?
I think that's better. Impossible.
Call me, beat me.
If you want to reach me, if you want to page me, it's okay.
Wherever you need me, call me, beat me.
If you want to reach me.
He gets.
Oh my God.
Call me, beat me. If you
Want to reach me.
Doesn't matter where, doesn't matter when.
Doesn't matter where. Okay, please stop. Okay.
Yeah.
That was crazy.
Ugh.